Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena. Welcome to all members, friends, and guests. My name is Clyde Derrick, and I am serving as your worship associate today. I am a white gay male in my late 60s with rapidly whitening brown hair. Neighborhood Church creates and grows an inclusive community of faith connected by love, spirit, and service. We acknowledge our presence on the ancestral and unceded territory of the Gabrielino Tongva peoples, the traditional caretakers of the lands and waters of this campus. With respect for the rights and wisdom of indigenous people, we acknowledge our harmful colonial histories and commit to decolonizing our own practices, to learning new ways of being in community and with each other, in good relationship with the indigenous people of this land and with the land itself. Today's service is led by Senior Minister Reverend Dr. Omega Burkhart. Today's music is directed by Dr. Zenaida Robles with Wells Lang and the Neighborhood Choir. Please take a moment to silence your devices as we begin our service. Families with young children are always welcome in the sanctuary, and there is additional seating in the entry foyer or narthex. I have 3 brief announcements. Today, after the service, members of our pastoral care team will be on the patio to connect our members and friends who experienced loss during the fires with the resources that they may need. If you are experiencing financial hardship, let them or Reverend Omega know, and they can make funds available to you as you navigate this difficult time. The children's and youth classrooms are looking for teachers because so many of our teachers have also been affected by the fires and are unable to teach this spring. A great way to help out is to volunteer in our classrooms. For more information, please see Director of Spiritual Education, Bree Young, after the service. And after today's service, join us in the chapel for Dining for Dollars bidding. For more information, here are Sarah Marcotte and Martin Matthews.
Good morning. Martin is busy setting up, so you just have me. So it's the day you've all been waiting for. Dining for Dollars, the only in-person bidding day, is right after this service. So please join us in Ross Chapel. There are empanadas for snacks. So we will feed you and go around the room and see all the great events that our community members are prepared to host for you this year. You like music? We got you. You like Shakespeare? It's there. Writing workshops, art workshops, and then I am told a certain very well-read, highly educated, Reverend Doctor, baseball fan with a ring in her nose will cook you breakfast and bring it to your house. You can't get that anywhere else except Dining for Dollars. 2025, she may never do it again. Yes. So join us in the chapel. You grab your bidding number and then head around the room, get yourself a snack, and see all the great activities your community members have in store for you this year. Thank you.
More extensive announcements as well as our order of service this morning are available as a link in the Sunday email. Our order of service is also visible online by scanning the QR code on the back of your hymnal with your phone camera. Again, welcome to Neighborhood Church, whoever you are and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. Welcome to this inclusive faith community connected by love, spirit, and service.
First, as we begin this morning, I bring to you greetings from our wider Unitarian Universalist community. I have been receiving letters and prayers to my mailbox in the past coming weeks, and I have put them on the table out here by the entrance. As you leave today, take a look. There even are some beautiful drawings from Unitarian Universalist children who sent those greetings to you. Today is the first Sunday of Black History Month, and it's even more important that we say that out loud here today. After a week of executive orders from Washington, D.C. that seek to erase our beloveds of color, our immigrant beloveds, our LGBTQ plus beloveds, let us gather here in this sanctuary for a moment of community and intention. I offer you this poem today to start our service from Luke Stevens Royer, entitled, "Heaven Has No Borders." Where was it when we first fell into the delusion of our separateness, of our otherness? Was it somewhere between the Tigris and the Euphrates, or at the Rio Grande, or near the Mississippi? Somewhere down from the Tower of Babel, we fell into the first sin of fearing difference. And we began to build walls, and the walls that we place to seemingly protect ourselves, we soon realize are prison walls, isolating us from the fabric of life, from our kindred, which is all people. We've built walls of prejudice and fear and delusional false sense of rightful ownership, as if we aren't all guests or on any land we inhabit. Heaven has no borders. When we forget this, we set up all the gates of hell. But something happens. When the hard part is watered with empathy and the closed soil soaked in compassion, the rigid borders dissolve. Something happens when the people remember that they are family and we have the tools we need, like Joshua at Jericho, to dance down the wall. The walls come tumbling down, crumble to dust from the dancing rhythm of the songs and the poems of the common work of love made flesh. Enough love to save us all. And again, the question from ancient scripture echoes in our moral conscience. Behold, says the stranger, the immigrant, the refugee. Behold, I stand at your door and knock. Will you lift up your gates? So come, let us worship together this morning. I invite you into this place of community with intention and gathered purpose. Find yourself in this space, locating your body in this place and time. Together we center our arrival with our breath. If it is comfortable to you, I invite you to close your eyes for just a moment. Here in this space of bravery, of love, and compassion. Breathe in and out, and share a moment of silence together.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 1067, Mother Earth, Beloved Garden.
Good morning, everyone. This morning's Time for All Ages is called Earth at the Interplanetary Conference. It is not a storybook, but there are images that you can watch on the screen, and they'll help your imagination. Pluto is included in this, okay? All right. All right. Once every 5,000 years or so, all the planets in our solar system get together for an interplanetary conference. They roast marshmallows in the warm glow of the sun, gossip about the other solar systems, and thoroughly enjoy one another's company. The most recent meeting, however, was much more serious than usual. Earth was very upset. They used to be so cute and friendly, she said with a sigh. They used to be so gentle. They used to thank me for everything they took, for the plants and animals they needed for food, for the rivers full of fish, for the gentle rains that watered their crops, and for the green trees they used to build their homes. They used to sing and dance to thank me, and sometimes I would sing with them. Oh, we had so much fun back then. I used to love to watch them. I couldn't wait to see what they were going to do next. Well, intoned Neptune in his eerie, deep voice, what's the problem then? They sound rather delightful to me. Earth sighed deeply, and huge waves crashed against the shores of 1,000 beaches. I said they used to be cute and friendly and polite. Now they just take and take and take. They tear me up looking for gold and oil, and they burn until my skies are black and smelly. Sometimes I think I'll never stop sneezing and coughing. And you wouldn't believe how messy they are. They make incredible amounts of garbage and then just throw it in my oceans or leave it laying around in great heaps. And they always want more, more, more. No matter how much they take, they're never satisfied. She stopped for a breath, and a single tear fell. It splashed into the Indian Ocean, where it quickly turned into a hurricane. The worst part is that they don't sing to me anymore, and they never, ever say thank you. I just don't know what to do. All the planets were silent, except for Venus. Ever the lover, she murmured, "There, there, Earth, there, there," as she held weeping Earth so close. Mars, the mighty orange planet, spoke next. "Earth, as you know, I have some experience in these matters. You may remember the trouble I was having with those little green creatures that used to live on me. You know, the ones who called themselves Martians. They did the same thing to me. Their greedy tentacles grabbed up everything in sight. I gave them several opportunities to straighten up, but they didn't listen. So I sucked all the air and water back inside myself and let the sun turn my skin into a giant burning desert. Those ungrateful Martians are all gone now, and good riddance. Tough love, I call it. If you want my advice, just shake them off like the fleas they are. Freeze them with an ice age, drown them in floods. You'll soon forget they were ever there." Some of the planets nodded, especially Saturn, who always seemed to be in a sour mood. The two smallest planets just looked sad. Earth saw their distress and asked, "What do you think, little ones?" Mercury, who was much more shy than you would think, simply blushed, but tiny, icy Pluto spoke up. "Earth, I'm so sorry for your pain," she said softly. "The way they are treating you is terrible, but look at me. I float alone in space, just a big block of ice, and no one has ever sung to me. As I drift along through eternity, I dream that someday I will be able to share myself with others. I dream that one day I will be needed, that I will be able to feed creatures of my own and watch them grow and thrive. But it seems that it's not meant to be, not for me. But so many creatures depend on you, Earth. Even if they forget how to treat you, how to sing to you, how to thank you, maybe they can learn, maybe they can grow up. Please be patient for just a little longer." "But maybe Mars' solution is the best one," Earth said. "I can't wait forever for those foolish humans to start behaving themselves." "I don't think Brother Mars is as happy as he pretends," Pluto continued. Earth asked Pluto, "Then what do you think I should do?" "It might be time for you to sing to them," whispered Pluto. And so Earth began to sing as she had not sung for a very long time. It was a song of creation, of love and promise, of warmth and cool water, of fresh spring grass and deep forest. She sang of dolphins and mountains and people. Yes, she even sang of people. Despite their behavior, she still loved them dearly. And when the earth let her voice soar fully into her song, a few children in each nation stopped what they were doing. They heard the earth song as if it were coming from someplace deep inside their bodies. These children could hear the song of trees, the flowers, and the whales in the ocean. And suddenly, they felt like singing too. They sang with strange smiles on their faces. Their mothers and fathers and teachers and friends said, "What on earth has gotten into you?" Their mothers and fathers and teachers and friends all over the world asked, "What's bringing this on?" And the children sat down on the earth, still humming to themselves. Didn't really know, but they said, "I just remembered something important." And Earth smiled, and everyone in the world suddenly felt a warm breeze, as gentle as a mother's hands, lifting their hair and touching their faces. The end. Thank you. Please join me in singing the children out to their classes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Each Sunday, our congregation dedicates 100% of its contributions to 501c3 organizations or neighborhood church-based social justice activities that are making a difference in our community and in our world. Each selected guest organization aligns with our community's mission and values and is nominated by church members who often are longtime volunteers and supporters of these change-making organizations. You can donate in one of two ways. You can use your cell phone to donate by texting the number on the screen, or if you prefer to donate in person, you can put your donation in one of the designated boxes during the music or after the service. There is a donation box here in the front, behind the back center row, and in the narthex entryway on the table. You may rise during the music to put your donation in the box if you wish. Please extend help to those in your neighborhood who may need assistance reaching the donation boxes. If you wish to make a payment toward your pledge or contribute to church operations, make a note in the subject line or use an envelope available at the donation boxes. This week, our gifts will support Union Station. Taylor Chazen is here with more information.
Good morning, neighborhood.
Good morning.
Today, the Share the Plate offering is going to an organization chosen by the Rites of Passage Youth Group, Union Station Homeless Services, which embodies the values of connection, home, and community. After the recent wildfires, the ROP youth knew they wanted to support an organization that not only provides immediate relief, but is also committed to long-term solutions. Union Station Homeless Services has been serving our community for over 50 years, helping individuals and families move from crisis to stability. Their programs offer a continuum of tailored services to meet the housing, health, and hunger needs of our community. Homelessness is not just about lacking shelter, it's a systemic issue. Los Angeles County is 500,000 units short of affordable housing, and this was before the fires, leaving thousands on the brink of homelessness. On any given night, more than 75,000 people experience homelessness in LA County, including over 550 right here in Pasadena, again, before the fires. With rents averaging $2,452 per month, far exceeding what many can afford, the heartbreaking choice between paying rent and buying food is becoming far too common, especially for those with stagnant wages. But economic hardship is only part of the story. Racial disparities, systemic racism, classism, and sexism put certain communities at greater risk of experiencing homelessness. Minority groups experience homelessness at disproportionately higher rates due to longstanding historical and structural racism. Many of these systemic obstacles make it harder for individuals and families to access stable housing, healthcare, and employment opportunities. Union Station tackles this crisis through 4 core areas of service. 1, outreach, engaging with unhoused individuals to connect them with critical resources. 2, interim housing, providing safe shelter and essential support for people transitioning out of homelessness. 3, permanent housing, ensuring long-term housing stability with individualized support. And 4, community building, helping individuals regain independence and feel a sense of belonging. With a proven 3-step approach, housing first, trauma-informed care, and harm reduction, Union Station has a 97% housing retention rate, ensuring that when people get housed, they stay housed. At its heart, Union Station is about connection, home, and community, values that align deeply with our mission at Neighborhood. We have a long-standing partnership with Union Station, serving meals, volunteering, and supporting their mission. Now in the wake of the wildfires, our community faces even greater challenges, but together we will rebuild. Through our generosity, we can help those most affected by this crisis, ensuring they have the support and resources they need to recover and thrive. Your donation today will provide meals, safe shelter, and vital support services to those who need them most. Together, we will strengthen our community through this crisis and beyond. Please give as you are able. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving generously today.
For our reading this morning, I offer you a selection from our common read right now, a psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. As it turns out, you can take the professor out of the classroom, but not out of the pulpit. So if you haven't done your homework yet, there are 3 copies of the book available to check out if you'd like. Now, to understand the context of the reading I'm going to offer you today, you need to know a few things. First, the 2 protagonists. One is a monk who goes by the name of Dex, sibling Dex, and the other is Mosscap, a robot that was constructed in the wild from recycled parts. Now, the conversation they are having takes place in the forest. Dex is from the city, and despite theologically wanting to be in the forest, suffers from a little bit of ick at nature. The robot, on the other hand, loves it. And the robot and all of the robot's siblings, I suppose we could call them, they dedicate their lives to studying nature. And so you'll hear the robot talk about some friends of theirs that study different pieces of nature. Now, the robots in this book are named from the first thing that they see when they gain consciousness. So this robot's name is Splendid Speckled Mosscap, Mosscap for short. So Dex asks, so if 2 foxes, another robot, if 2 foxes is into bird calls, what about you? What's your thing? Insects, Mosscap cried. Its voice was jubilant, as if it had spent every second prior waiting for Dex to broach the topic. Oh, I love them so much, and arachnids too, all invertebrates really, although I do also love mammals and birds, and amphibians are also very good, as are fungi and mold, and it paused, catching itself. You see, this is my problem. Most of my kind have a focus, not as sharply as focused as 2 foxes, another robot, or black marbled rock frog, another robot, necessarily, but they have an area of expertise, at least. Whereas I like everything. Everything is interesting. I know about a lot of things, but only a little in each regard. Mosscap's posture changed at this. They hunched a bit, lowered their gaze. It's not a very studious way to be. Well, I can think of a bunch of monks who disagree with you on that, Dex said. You study Bosch's domain, it sounds like, in a very big top-down kind of way. You're a generalist. That's a focus. Mosscap's eyes widened. Thank you, sibling Dex, it said after a moment. I hadn't thought of it that way. Dex angled their head to give Mosscap a nod of, you're welcome, and then stared at what they saw. Mosscap, you've got a worm crawling through your neck parts. Mosscap responded, yes, it's a velvet leafworm, and I know it came up my arm after I brushed against a bush. It's fine. Dex watched with growing trepidation as the leafworm crept up and up, exploring with its long antennae, eventually slithering into the dark gap that led into Mosscap's head. Mosscap, yes, it's fine.
Draw the circle,
Now, in the passage I just read from a psalm for the wild-built, there is a tension, a humorous tension in the little green worm, but there is a tension about what it means to be inclusive and what it means to set boundaries around invitation. Who is in the circle and who is not in the circle. The city-born monk sibling Dex struggles with understanding their place in the world, theoretically loving all beings, but also feeling a little scared and intimidated at times by the nature that they have chosen to surround themselves with. The robot Moscap, on the other hand, seeks human civilization again. After being made in the forest by other robots from recycled machine parts that were left behind after a human industrial age. The robot seeks the humans and wants to learn about their systems and customs, and as we saw in that passage, is quite fond and quite literally includes non-human creatures in its circles of welcome. What does being a welcoming community mean in a time when members, such as us, members of a liberal faith tradition, when we are called to reaffirm publicly, to narrate publicly in a show of solidarity that we intentionally draw the circle wide for all of us to join? How do we do that and hold the tension that, in fact, maybe not all are welcome? not those who would cause harm to our beloveds, not those who would seek to destruct bonds of beloved community that we hold dear. There's a tension in that. As say the words of the rules of Saint Benedict, I am called to welcome in every stranger who comes to the door as the face of the divine. All guests present themselves are to be welcomed as Christ, for he himself will say, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. We are a welcoming church, dear ones, and this week I confess to you that I have been struggling with that word. This week, in a week where executive orders are being passed that erase our trans beloveds from government websites. This in a week as important health and safety information has been pulled from view. This in a week when immigration forces have entered churches and schools and shopping centers and have detained families just because they are speaking Spanish. This week when the board and the staff of this church, of Neighborhood Church, have spent hours discussing and training for the protection of our beloveds here on campus. We have been working together with Sequoia School to make sure that all who come on this campus find refuge and are safe. I find myself conflicted. Our theological understandings of covenant as Unitarian Universalism, as Universalists, compel us to consider that all are welcome, and at times, not everyone is welcome in every capacity. Those who would come into this space with intent to harm are not welcome. Those who would consider empathy of our fellow humans to be a sin, not welcome. This is the paradox, of course, the paradox of tolerance. The paradox of tolerance. We confront this paradox in our liberal tradition. We are theologically predisposed to wrestle with this, with the meanings of being intentional about our radical inclusion. My colleague, C.B. Beale, calls this preemptive radical inclusion, that we should lean into preemptive radical inclusion. But that desire rubs up against our desire to create a safe, brave, safe space here, to protect the most vulnerable in our midst. This is a question with which we have wrestled this week. Can we be a liberal religious tradition of welcome and inclusion and also limit access? That's a tough one. My colleague C.B. Beale calls preemptive radical inclusion this, and I'm working to lean into this. Preemptive radical inclusion means that we challenge what we already believe. These are C.B. Beale's words. We challenge what we already believe, the systems that have worked for us and we enjoy, and lean into learning how other people experience those systems. Practicing preemptive radical inclusion means we have to change. In fact, it's a sign that we are practicing preemptive radical inclusion when we notice it is we who change. It's not a box to check off in the planning process. It's not a call for diversity, so inclusion, check, is done. Instead, it is a lifelong practice, they write. It is not a thing to do, but a way to explore and to perceive. It is a way to examine privilege, to take on responsibility, to set aside control, and to work for justice. Now, I think what this means, especially in the climate that we are in today, is that those of us with privilege and power are called to use that privilege and power to disrupt systems that are seeking to marginalize or harm those with less power. And I think that one of the ways that we can do this, as a storyteller myself, one of the ways that we can do this is to be inclusive in the stories that we tell. about who we, and I put we in quotation marks, are who we are, how we will respond to the issues of now, and to do all of this while also being true and deliberate about the I, the center of that, of self, what our own gifts and challenges and callings are. Now, the relationship between the self, the us, and the now is outlined in a working paper by Marshall Gonzalez, and it is entitled, "What is Public Narrative?" I think through this lens, we can see how inclusive narratives of we are and how they can be a call to action. They can be a model for examining our theological relationships to the tensions surrounding this paradox of tolerance. Gonzalez suggests that a public narrative should do the following. I quote, "Public narrative is not primarily a form of self-expression. It is an exercise of leadership by motivating others to join you in action on behalf of a shared purpose. The goal is to identify sources of your own calling to the purpose in which you will call upon others. That's the story of us. To join you in action, that is the story of now." They go on to suggest that stories are how we learn to make choices. Stories are how we learn to access the moral and emotional resources we need to face the uncertain, the unknown, and the unexpected. How to face those mindfully. Because stories speak the language of emotion, the language of the heart, they teach us not only how we ought to act, but can inspire us with the courage to act. So I'd like to show a diagram of circles. Andrew, could you put the diagram up? Now, I understand, I did this last week to you all, and some of you asked me for it afterwards. I'm happy to share it. This comes from the paper that Gonzalez writes here in What is Public Narrative? We're doing quite a bit of geometry the past 2 weeks of circles, you'll notice. But there's something really valuable about imagining this and the interplay between these circles. So the now, the story of now, strategy and action, here are some questions that are suggested here. What urgent challenge might you call on us to face? What does a vision of what we could achieve together, what does that look like if we act? The story of us, who is the us? Who is the us that you will call upon to join you? What motivating values do they share? And the self, what are the sources of your own calling? What critical choices can you recall? What stories do you tell about the choice points? Self, now, us. Now, in A Psalm for the Wild-Built, we see how that narrative of inclusion and action is being set up in part by the development of answers to these questions. For sibling Dex, the monk whose vocation calls them to serve tea and to chaplain to those in pain, the source of their calling is the power of accompaniment. The knowledge that even in a world where their basic needs are met, food and housing, that is met for everyone. But the human condition requires empathy and compassion. But even sibling Dex grapples with inclusion, humorously, of course, in the reading I offered earlier, but grapples with what it means to be part of society and being out of society. The bridge between the us in this novel is the budding relationship with Moscap, the robot, made of these recycled robot parts. The robots have long been separated from the humans, their original makers, and learned to remake themselves. Together, Moscap and Dex begin to ask the question of what us looks like. What is us? Humans and robots and even the little green worm, what is the us? And their philosophical conversations in this book about purpose and plans for the future start to open doors into the real task of narrative power, what it means to have agency over one's life, what it means to be inclusive, and also what it means to be marginalized. In some ways, the urgency of now for Dex and Moscap and the other humans, the humanoids, the robots, and the little green worms, is that there is a sense of urgency because they realize in that moment of realization that none of them can survive alone. In other words, no beings, systems are wholly independent of others in that fictional world, as in our own very real world right now. So I urge us to consider this. I urge us to hold this tension about being welcoming and being protective as we are called in the coming days and weeks to publicly affirm again who we are and what our faith is in this world right now. This is a life-saving faith. How will we tell this story? A story of now, in the words of Gonzalez, the author of this paper, a story of now is urgent, an urgency based on threat or equally an opportunity. It is meant to inspire others to drop other things and pay attention. It is rooted in the values you celebrate in your story of self and us, but it poses a challenge to those values. It contrasts a vision of the world as it will be if we fail to act, and as the world as it could be if we do act. And it calls us to act. Those are Gonzalez's words. So I urge us here, may we be as discerning as the monk who strives to marry the heart of accompaniment with the boundaries of self-care. May we find a way forward on a path where we wield our privilege to protect the most vulnerable. May we have the courage here to know that sometimes the most vulnerable is actually us. And may we have the grace to accept an invitation of help and welcoming ourselves. And may we be as bold as that robot who aspires gleefully towards friendship and opportunity. May it be so.
Please rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1056, Tula Plazio.
By way of benediction this morning, the new Colossus, Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.